so much for graciously blessing us with your time and the research it has taken you to pull all this together. I want to affirm what you've said, and I think it is helpful for us to use this, especially when we're reaching out to people of different faiths, no matter what faith it is, to seek points of contact first, to emphasize those points, and then slowly lead them to Christ. So I appreciate that approach. Quick question I had was, do Christians and Muslims worship the same God? And I asked this question on the heels of the comment you made about how the Quran uses Jesus. For example, when you say Jesus is Messiah, and then various comments. I pick on one being one of the strongest ones, that Jesus is Messiah. However, also the Quran does say that Jesus is not God. It does say that. And it goes further to say, condemn those who worship Jesus. So there seems to be an internal contradiction within the Quran.
The word is conflict.
Conflict or Quran.
Let me address that as you go.
Sure. Or conflict. Let's use your word.
One of the things we have to remember is this. At the time of history that Islam emerged, the type and the form of Christianity that was propagated very forcefully was the style and the theology of the Roman Church.
Yes, exactly.
The Roman Church had declared, was propagating Father, Son, and Mary.
Yes.
The Roman Church was propagating an imagery related to the Trinity, which is abhorrent. An old man with an old beard with a big old fat hair being the Father. Mary cradling Jesus with the halo around him, and multitudes going and kissing and worshiping and kissing and worshiping. If you are a Christian at the time that this was going on, believe you me, you would never want to be a Christian because of what was going on in the world. So the impression, and again, the damage, and I'm speaking this openly without reservation, the damage that the Roman Church has caused, the cause of Christ, in many cases, is irreparable.
Yes.
What we are seeing are the repercussions of centuries of heretical, in my opinion, non-biblical, demonic teachings that crept into the Roman system, and someone had to do something against it. And when the emergence of Islam, this Reformation, was in its spin, was in grabbing momentum, they saw everything and anything slightlessly in a remote fashion related to Rome, they would reject it. They would want to have nothing to do with it. Baptism, church, cross, the relics of Christians, everything. So one of the things for us to consider is this. Muslims might not overtly say he is God, but the attributes that they give to Jesus is nothing short of God. In the Quran, there's a story about Jesus being 6 years old. As he's playing with his friends, he spits on the ground, he takes a piece of mud, breathes on it, and it becomes a bird and it flies. The Quran says, at that moment, he gave life to an inanimate subject. And I've asked many Muslims, whose prerogative is it only to give life? Allah, God. I said, at this junction in time, when a 6-year-old is giving life to a bird, how and what is he portraying at that moment? They say he is being God. So how can you be God 1 second and not be God the other second? These are the conflicts within Islam.
And those conflicts, I mean, personally I looked at them as internal contradictions, because for the truth has to have a coherence, it cannot contradict within the system. So when you have a book, and by the way, I say this with tremendous respect for Muslims and tons of friends who are Muslims, but trying to emphasize the points of contact, but at the same time recognizing the differences.
Let me respond up to that point. The generations past, and by and large Christianity has, I'm just going to use one word, has wasted enough time in looking for the differences and the inconsistencies.
Yes.
To the point that we have sacrificed everything that I showed with you today. I've shared with you today. Is it worth it? In my humble opinion, look at the result.
Yeah.
Is it worth, in any way, shape, or form, to highlight our differences at the cost of sacrificing what can be billed as bridges?
No.
You see what I'm saying? Is there any merit to this? In my humble opinion, not anymore.
No.
Absolutely.
Not anymore.
So I just want to get, since I can sit down. So back to my question: do Muslims and Christians worship the same God? Because we recognize the truth that are stated in the Quran, such as Jesus is the Messiah, and at the same time recognize where the Quran says that Jesus is not God. And for Christians to deny the divinity of Christ is heresy, basically.
Yeah, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Let me address that issue up until then. One of the things for us to remember is we are dealing with a religion that is not Christianity, it's not Judaism, but it has 75% of its roots in both Judaism and Christianity. Are Christians and Muslims worshiping the same God? My answer was yes, but let me also explain from the biblical perspective. Was the God of Jesus and the God of the Pharisees, was it the same?
Yes. No question. Absolutely.
Did the Pharisees and Jesus worship the same God? I'm asking you.
Yes.
You're asking me.
I'm asking you and everybody.
No.
They each defined God differently, and therefore their worship was different.
Those who say yes, it was the same God, I would say then why did they kill him?
That's right.
If you say no, well, you have to answer the Bible because Jesus never told them you were worshiping a different God.
He told them your children of the devil.
They understood him differently.
Yes.
They perceived him differently. Who do Muslims need to bring the rightful character of God to their mind and to their hearts? It's the people of the book. They have all these scattered, mysterious, albeit in my humble opinion, whatever I shared with you today, my full conviction is nothing short of miracle. That a system of religion that has this outlook of so much being different, at animosity, at antagonistic to Christianity, has so much in common. So one of the things for us to do is this. Are they seeing God the same way we do? No, they don't. Are they seeing the same God? Yes, they are. They are understanding him differently. Who needs to bring the rightful character of God to their religion and to their spectrum? It's the people of the book.
Yes, and that's probably where I'll conclude and mention that's where I have some troubles. For example, some statements are picking on your comment earlier that some, for example, where you say Jesus is a Messiah, that is an inspired statement, whereas the statement Jesus is not God, and there, to me, it appears it is a contradiction of inspiration, and there cannot be a contradiction of inspiration within one book. And at the same time, for God, for Muslims and Christians, we define God differently. And to me, it appears that we therefore worship a different God because we define God differently. And so, and that is hence, otherwise there will not be a need for evangelism. Because if we worship the same God, this is how I'm looking at it.
Okay, well, you see, there's a contradiction right there. There's a contradiction right there. If that was the case, then the church should not have evangelized Judaism.
True.
Because Judaism have not accepted the Christ has come yet.
No.
That's one of the reasons.
Okay, well, see, the main reason why Jesus was crucified, the Jewish elders at Sanhedrin said, you being man, you equate yourself with God. To death you go. But here's the problem. If that was the case, then we should not have reached out to the Jews because they understood him differently. The whole point is this. The uniqueness of the Advent movement God did not raise the Adventist church to be another flavor of Christianity.
No.
So that we can go to church on Sabbath.
No.
There's enough of that. God raised this movement, and this is my humble opinion, and there are heads much bigger than me that concur to this. The Advent movement was raised so that we can be the catalyst, the instrument of all the Abrahamic faiths coming to the truth that was revealed to this church as the three angels' message.
Yes.
Finding faults, finding inconsistencies only wastes time.
Yes.
What Paul did in Athens is anathema in church today. He went to Athens and he said, men of Athens, this unknown God created this unknown. When the Greeks were dedicating that altar to the unknown God, do you think they had Jesus in mind? No. Do you think they had Jehovah God in mind? No. What Paul did is absolutely blasphemous today.
Sure.
But what he did, he found an opening, a wedge within this elaborate system of Greek mythology. If Paul did that with a pagan religion who literally had nothing in common with Christianity and the Bible, how much more should we invest time with all this at our disposal, and yet we are looking for wedges that distance us? Rather than build bridges, my brother, we have been building walls.
Yeah.
We are experts in building walls. Why? Because we see inconsistencies. Hold on. I don't see any merit to that conversation and to that thinking, telling Muslims that your God and our God is different. They perceive him differently. They understand him differently. Rightly so, because they are different people, different religion. But just remember one thing. They are from Abraham's seed.
Yes.
They are worshiping the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I cannot deny that. They would use different language to express that. I cannot deny that. They would use a different perception to explain him and to perceive him. I have to respect that. Rather than look for inconsistencies and say, I cannot concur that they're worshiping a different God. I cannot say that because the Quran says, the God of Muhammad is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He is the God of Moses. He is the God of Abraham. He is the God of Joseph. He is the God of Jesus. He is the God of Samuel. He is the God of all the prophets that I put up there. I cannot deny this. I can be looking for excuses. I can be looking for excuses. Well, what do they mean by Samuel? What do they mean? But I'm just saying, what I'm trying to convey to you is this. Even remotely looking for the differences and inconsistencies is wasting our time and is wasting God's time. Let me. Yeah.
Is he still talking?
Yeah.
It's the same question he's
We don't
asking.
need to care about that anymore.
Yeah.
You see, this is what has prohibited us. This is what has limited us from outreach to Muslims. We have been this is what we have done. We've taken it upon ourselves to equate this religion with Christianity. Wrong. It's a waste. It's not Christianity, and it does not equate with the Bible. Let's accept it, move on. What do we do with what we have? Not with things we don't have.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I have a simple question. Simple question.
Simple question. There is no simple
Your
question.
timing is perfect because right now it's in the political arena about the coming of the Muslims. You're the right perfect timing. My question is there any difference between the word Islam and Muslim?
No, Islam is a religion, and the person who adheres to Islam is called Muslim. Just like Judaism and the person who adheres to Judaism is called a Jew. That's what. He was right. Simple question. Can I take the ladies' question? You already have one question. I'm sorry. Ladies. No, I want to be respectful to our sister in the back.
I know there's lots of questions, okay? I'm burning with like 5 or 6 questions myself.
You get through, so let me go before you pass.
What I'm trying to say is that we want to be respectful of our time.
Yes.
We have a very important program this evening to build up our young people, and those who are leading out in it have been patiently waiting for that to start. So there are more questions that can be asked, more questions that can be answered. We've just run out of time today to continue that process.
The one that's created.
And so we've gotten information.